This week I have two videos for you, both on aspects of the dative case, and we're actually going to be learning about the dative case both this week and next week. Now, I've told you before that there are 4 cases in German, but don't worry, there are 6 in Russian and 15 in Finnish, so German's not that bad at all. Also, you only have to learn 3 of the cases this semester. The genitive case is something we teach in German beginners too. So, just recapping briefly what the nominative and accusative cases are for. The nominative case is used for subjects in German. The subject is the person or thing that performs the action of the verb. The accusative case we've learned is used for direct objects, the direct object being the person or the thing that directly receives the action of the verb. Or to put it another way, the direct object is the person or thing that the subject acts on or performs the action of the verb on. And we've also learned that the accusative case is used after certain prepositions. So what is the dative case used for? Well, it's used first of all for indirect objects. So this is another class of objects. The indirect object, as the name suggests, indirectly receives the action of the verb. So if we look at this example here, die Verkäuferin zeigt der Kundin ein Kleid, the saleswoman shows the customer a dress, we can see that the verb is to show, zeigen, and what is directly receiving the action of that verb, the thing that is being shown is a dress, and then the person to whom this dress is being shown is the customer. And that is why the customer is the indirect object. I'll talk that through in more detail in a few moments. Secondly, the dative case is used in certain expressions, and we've used one of these since the beginning of the semester. Wie geht es dir? How are you? That little word dir there, I can tell you now, is the dative form of the personal pronoun du. So du is the nominative form, dich we've learned is the accusative form, and now we'll learn that dir is the dative form of that second person singular informal word for you. So in certain expressions. Thirdly, the dative case is used with a number of verbs that only have a dative object. So far this semester we've been working with verbs that take a direct object. Today we're going to be looking at a whole lot of verbs that take both a direct and an indirect object. So an object in the accusative case and one in the dative case. And then in the second video today, I'm going to introduce you to a set of verbs that are always followed by just a dative object, no direct or accusative object. And then fourthly, the dative case is used after certain prepositions. I won't teach you about these prepositions until next week, but just, I guess, to prepare you for the fact that just like there are some prepositions that are always followed by the accusative case, there are also some prepositions that are always followed by the dative case. So coming first to indirect objects. This is a really important use of the dative case in German. So we've learned about verbs that take a direct object. The direct object is always in the accusative case. And my example there was der Hund beißt den Briefträger. The word der, the definite article der, masculine nominative, tells us that's the dog that is doing the biting. The dog is the subject. Den in front of Briefträger is the masculine accusative article. This tells us that the postman is receiving the action of that verb to bite. So it's the dog that is biting the postman, not the postman that's biting the dog. There are also in German verbs that take both a direct object, accusative, and an indirect object, which will always be in the dative case. The example I'll work with today is this one here. Der Bär schenkt dem Tiger eine Blume. This is from a famous German children's story, Der kleine Bär und der kleine Tiger. And so what we have in the picture, you can see that the bear is giving the tiger a flower. And after I've taught you the dative forms of the definite and indefinite articles, I'll talk you through how we can work out that it's the tiger that is the indirect object and a flower that is the direct object. So the first thing we need to do is add a third line to the der chart. The der chart is the chart that tells us which form the definite article der takes depending on its gender, number and case. So der just means the, that's the definite article, and we use this chart to tell us which form of the word der we need to use depending on the gender, number and case of the noun that follows that definite article. We also use the der chart to give us the endings on dieser, which means this, and on welcher, which means which. So we'll revise first of all the first two lines, nominative and accusative. You should know those very well by now, and then we'll add the dative. So masculine nominative, the word is der. Feminine nominative is die, neuter is das, and the plural form is die. In the accusative line, you now know that there's only one change from der to den. Masculine accusative, den. The feminine doesn't change, the neuter doesn't change, and the plural article also does not change. In the dative line though, everything changes. So here we need to learn that a masculine noun in the dative case, the definite article will be dem. For a feminine noun in the dative case, the article will be der. A neuter noun in the dative case will have the definite article dem, and a plural noun in the dative case will have the definite article den, and then we also need to remember plus n. Plus n means that when we have a plural noun and it's used in the dative case, if the noun does not already end in an n in its plural form, we'll need to add an n to that noun. So for instance, we know the word for child is das Kind. The plural form is die Kinder. So we will say die Kinder in both the nominative case and the accusative case. In the dative case though, we're going to change this word die to den. The article will change to the plural dative article den. And then, because the plural word Kinder, children, does not already end in an N, we are going to add an N to the plural form. So it becomes den Kindern rather than den Kinder. All right, so whenever the plural form of the noun does not end in an N already, and we're in the dative case, we're going to add that N to it. Now, when we were learning the nominative and accusative cases, we learned that when we want to say instead of the chair, for instance, this chair, we're going to use the word dieser. And dieser ends in an ER because the basic form is always the masculine nominative. Just as it's der, which changes to die, das, die, it's also dieser, masculine nominative, also ending in ER. And that then changes if we're saying this in relation to a feminine noun. It will be diese, ending in E, just as die ends in D. If it's a neuter noun and we're wanting to say this, for instance, this book, then just as it's das Buch, for the book, it's dieses Buch, ending in S for this book. And then the plural will be diese, ending in E, just like the definite article die. We saw then that that pattern also followed for the accusative case, so den, Mann, the man, accusative, diesen Mann, this man, accusative, ending in N in both cases. Feminine, diese, no change. in the accusative, no change in the accusative for neuter, and no change in the accusative for plural. The dative forms then follow the same pattern as the definite article. So we have dem ending in em, so this will be diesem. Der ends in er, so we want to say dieser when we're saying this in relation to a feminine noun in the dative case. And then for the neuter, it's diesem. Noticing that in the dative case, the masculine and neuter forms of the articles are the same. Dem, dem, diesem, diesem. And the plural, diesen, just like it's den, and not forgetting to add the n to the plural noun if it doesn't already have one. So if we wanted to say these children in the dative, it would be diesen Kindern. Just to give you an example of where there is already an N, we know that the word die Frau, the woman, forms the plural with an EN, die Frauen. So when we want to put die Frauen into the dative case, plural women, but in the dative case, all we will need to change there is the article to den, because Frauen already ends in an N. So we're not going to double that N. Let's quickly just run through the forms of welche, meaning which. So here it would be welcher, ia, welche, welches, welche, just following the same pattern with the endings. Welchen, masculine accusative, welche, welches, welche. And then in the dative line, welchem, iem, welcher, ia, welchem, iem, and welchen, ien, plus n on that plural noun if the plural form does not already end in n. So after the der chart, the next thing we need to do is add that third line to the ein chart. The ein chart, ein is just the word that in English is a or an, is the indefinite article referring to an indefinite thing. So the ein chart, a or an in English, in German, as with the definite article chart, takes different forms depending on the gender and number and also the case. We also use the ein chart to determine the endings for the possessive adjectives, such as mein and unser, etc. And we also use it for the negative article, kein, the forms of that negative article. First of all, we'll look at the indefinite articles. So masculine nominative we know is ein, feminine nominative eine, neuter nominative ein, and in the plural, because we cannot have a or an in the plural, we go straight to the negative article, and the form of that in the nominative is keine. Masculine accusative form of ein is einen. Then in the feminine, it doesn't change. Neuter, no change. And plural, no change. So again, as for the definite article der, the only change here is from the nominative masculine to the accusative masculine. In the dative line, as for the definite article chart, for the indefinite article or ein chart, everything changes in a similar way. So we have einem, einer, einem, and keinen plus n. So just as der changes to den and dem, here we have a change from ein to einen to einem, em ending. In the feminine, we have an er ending, neuter em, as for the masculine, and in the plural, we have the en, and we're going to add that plural ending n to the dative noun in the plural form, if it doesn't already have an n on it. So keinen Kindern rather than keine Kinder. Good, and then if we look at the possessives, and a number of people do have trouble with this as a concept. So the possessives are things like mein and unser, mein, dein, sein, ihr, unser. Mein meaning my, and are used in front of a noun. So we're not saying mine in English, but my. For instance, my brother. Okay, my brother, my sister. Unser means our, so our parents, for instance, or our house. So these possessive adjectives in German always take endings depending on the gender, number, and case of the noun that follows that possessive adjective. And because it takes endings, we need to look at this chart. So if we look first of all at mine, meaning my something, all we need to do, of course, is add the M. So we have mine, meine, mine, and then that K will change to an M, and we have meine. In the masculine accusative, if we add the M there, we have meinen. Here, meine, mine, and getting rid of that K, meine. In the dative, same process. So we're just going to add that M so that einem, a masculine noun in the dative case, becomes my masculine noun in the dative case, meinem. So, for instance, if we're talking about my brother, if my brother is the subject of the sentence nominative, it will be simply mein Bruder. If my brother is the direct object in the sentence, it will be meinen Bruder, because Bruder is masculine, but now it's the direct object, so mein has changed to meinen. And then if the brother, my brother, goes into the dative case, and we'll talk about when that might be the case soon, then we're going to change the en ending to an em ending, meinem Bruder. Okay, so meinem, meiner, meinem, and meinen plus n. Very straightforward for the possessives that sound like ein. All we're doing is adding one letter to the front, whether it's mein, dein, or sein, my, your, or his, or its. But it's quite simple also if we take one of the other possessives like unser. All we're doing is putting in unser and then looking at the ending on the ein to get the right ending for unser. So if we look at the nominative line first of all, here there's no ending on mine. So we want no ending on unser, masculine nominative. Feminine has an E ending, so we will add that to the base form unser. Here no ending is repeated, and here it's an E ending, so we'll add an E here, unsere. In the accusative then, unser is going to get this en ending and become unseren. Okay, then unser here will get this E ending and be unsere. Here, ein has no ending, so we want no ending on unser here, and then here, unsere, to copy that E ending on eine, keine, meine. And then in the dative, we'll follow the same pattern, so unser is going to get that em ending, unserem, unsere, er ending, unserem, and unseren plus n. So if we wanted to say our children in the dative, it would be unseren Kindern. Okay, adding that n ending to the plural form Kinder, children, unseren Kindern, rather than the nominative, which would be unsere Kinder without that dative n ending. So that's the ein chart. So let's return now to our sentence about the bear giving the tiger a flower. And you'll notice there that I've removed the articles from this sentence. And this is so we can go through the questions we need to ask in order to work out what is the subject, what is the direct object, and what is the indirect object. The first three questions here we've already been using to work out subjects and direct objects, so we're just adding a fourth question. Let's run through it here. What is the verb? The verb is schenken, to give. All right. Second question, who or what is doing the giving? Now here, because we know that the subject in German can be either first or third, it could be either the bear or the tiger. So let's look at the picture. It is the bear who's doing the giving here. The bear is giving a flower to the tiger. So the bear then is going to be the subject, and that means the bear must be in the nominative case. If we know, or if I tell you that bear is a masculine noun, then you're going to know that the article that is missing is der. Masculine nominative definite article, der Bär. Der Bär schenkt. So the bear is giving. The third question then is what is being verbed, or in this case, what is being given? What is the bear giving? The bear is giving a flower. And we can see that in a picture. The bear is giving a flower, so that is our direct object, directly receiving that action of giving. Okay, the bear is performing the action of giving directly on a flower. That means the flower is the direct object. The flower must be in the accusative case. It is a flower, so we want the indefinite article for the feminine noun Blume in the accusative case, which is eine. Our fourth question now, which is the new question. To determine the indirect object, we need to ask to whom or for whom is the action of the verb being performed. So to whom or for whom is the action of the verb schenken, to give, being performed. It is being performed for the tiger. The bear is giving a flower to the tiger. Okay, that means that the tiger is the indirect object, and that means the tiger must be in the dative case. Tiger is a masculine noun. The definite article masculine dative is dem. So the entire sentence then reads, der Bär schenkt dem Tiger eine Blume. If you were unsure about which of the flower and the tiger were the direct object and which the indirect, you could try it both ways. Is the bear giving a flower to the tiger, or is the bear giving the tiger to a flower? And clearly it's a flower to the tiger. So because it's to the tiger, the action is being performed to the tiger. Therefore, the tiger has to be the indirect object. The flower is being given to him. Now that I've told you how to work out the indirect object of a sentence, let's do an Übung together to practice. So here we have 5 sentences, and in each sentence we have a direct object and an indirect object. So we need to work out which is which and put in the article or the possessive adjective in the correct case. So what I've given you in each case is the subject already and the verb, and so we're just looking at questions 3 and 4. Looking at the first one now, der Schüler zeigt, so the schoolboy shows. And now we need to ask question 3, what does the schoolboy show? And he shows his homework. And then question 4, to whom is the schoolboy showing his homework? And it's to the teacher. So if the schoolboy is showing his homework to the teacher, then his homework is our direct object. That needs to be in the accusative case. The possessive adjective for his is sein, and Hausaufgaben is plural. So the accusative plural ending is e, seine Hausaufgaben. And then to whom is he showing it? He's showing it to the teacher. The teacher is therefore the indirect object. That means it's got to be in the dative case. And teacher is a masculine noun, so we want the masculine dative word for the, which is dem. Der Schüler zeigt dem Lehrer seine Hausaufgaben. Now, if you were confused about which was the direct or the indirect object, you could try it both ways. You could say, is the schoolboy showing his homework to the teacher, direct to indirect, or is he showing the teacher to his homework, which would mean the teacher would be the direct object and the homework indirect. And clearly it is the homework to the teacher, and so therefore the homework is the direct object, the teacher is the indirect object. Now you might like to pause the video now and then work through numbers 2 to 5 and come back and I'll run through the answers with you. Number 2, here we have a sentence where the parents are giving something, die Eltern schenken. And notice that this is an example where the subject, die Eltern, is after the verb rather than before it. And so now we're asking, what are the parents giving? And the answer is they're giving a dog, direct object, accusative. To whom are they giving a dog? They're giving it to their daughter, so the daughter is therefore the indirect object and in the dative case. And so your answer should read, ihrer Tochter schenken die Eltern einen Hund. Number 3, der Lehrer liest, so the teacher reads. What does the teacher read? The teacher reads a story. And to whom is the teacher reading the story? And it's to the children. So the story is the direct object, accusative case. The children are the indirect object, dative case. And so the sentence reads, der Lehrer liest den Kindern eine Geschichte vor. Notice that vorlesen is a separable prefix verb. This means to read aloud. So the teacher's reading a story aloud to the children. Notice also that I've of course put in the dative plural ending on the noun Kinder, because when you have a plural noun in the dative case, you do need to add N to the noun if it doesn't already end in N in the plural. So number 4 should read, zum Geburtstag möchte ich meinem Freund ein T-Shirt kaufen. So meinem Freund, that's the indirect object, dative case. Ein T-Shirt, direct object, accusative case. The sentence is saying, for his birthday, I would like to buy my friend or my boyfriend a T-shirt. So what am I buying, or what would I like to buy? A T-shirt, direct object. T-shirt is a neuter noun, so the correct article in the accusative case is ein. And to or for whom would I like to buy this T-shirt? And it's for my friend or boyfriend, so therefore that is the indirect object, dative case. Freund is a masculine noun, so the correct ending on the possessive mein is em. And then finally, we have Tiger schreibt der Bär Brief. Again, the subject is after the verb here, der Bär. I can tell that it's the subject because it's in the nominative case. Bär is a masculine noun, so der Bär is masculine nominative. And so I need to ask, what is the bear writing? And the bear is writing a letter. So a letter is the accusative object or the direct object, which means it's in the accusative case. Brief is masculine, so we want the masculine accusative indefinite article einen. And then to whom is the bear writing this letter? And it's to the tiger. We've said the tiger is a masculine noun, so the masculine dative word is dem that we need. Dem Tiger schreibt der Bär einen Brief. Tiger is the indirect object because it is the person, in this case the animal, to whom the bear is writing the letter. Okay, so we'll do some more work with direct and indirect objects in the L2 class this week, but before that make sure that you watch the second video for this week, which is on dative verbs.